Recording. All right, good morning, gentlemen. Just waiting for an official quorum. Good morning, Randy. How are you? Hitting the roads early? We got time still, Randy. At least another 2 minutes. Oh, you're on the... Can you hear me? Usually Avram will join in soon.
As he's coming from his house.
I have been assigned as the co-host. It's a big honor. Lots of pressure. But I can't hear you. We'll wait just another minute or so. You were here Shabbos? How was?
No, I didn't come.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I was at North.
The North, okay.
Lady at North, so I didn't come to the.
Gotcha. Who's that? Which one of his sons are getting? One of his sons, right?
It's Naftali, I think. That's the second one.
All right.
Or has been. I think the Chasna is on Wednesday in
New York. I heard a lot of people going. Just for Thanksgiving. I don't know. Flying in on a Wednesday.
So those flights have got to be like super expensive.
Yeah.
Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving week, the flights are just like
right.
I tell my kids that you stay where you are.
I know. I think my brother YU, like he was coming back on Thursday, like or something, and all he wanted to do was get bumped.
Yeah.
Because they always like need more seats. Like I just like get bumped from flight to flight, and even if he doesn't make it back, he was a single, college student. What does he care, Yeah. So I mean, we never really did Thanksgiving.
My brother's one does, so we go over there.
Yeah, we did. We were like an every other year type of family. Like some years we did it, some years we didn't.
Some people even say they're every other year.
Yeah. Well, we were like the same, like with Purim also. Like some years we do Purim Suda, other years we didn't. It was just like a regular day. Like it was just, I mean, obviously, you did the little costumes and you hear Megillah, Shachmanas, but then like you never really had the Suda. So, all right, I hear people coming. Oh, another in a minute or so. You're talking in the hallway. Yeah, I was here before. Yeah, that's what Jack said. Oh, someone's here. I said, I don't know. I doubt.
All right, no.
I'll be there in about 10 minutes.
Oh, okay, yeah. You're good. I just got two people walking in and then we're gonna start.
No worries.
Well, I hear talking, so I assume it's that person talking to himself.
7:00 isn't 7:05.
We haven't. I did say Alan will come at 7:02, but I did say Mark would be on time, and I said if Rami would get on. Probably no. He usually gets them right on time. He's still at his house, and he's on the recording usually on Sunday morning for around 10 minutes until or whatever. 5 minutes.
I realize that like my son will wake up, so I'm
right. I know I'm scheduled. If Levy's here, Levy will be here actually before me. Levy will be like 5 to 10 minutes early if Levy comes.
And then Zevy's in town. He'll be here.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
He said he hasn't been in town since.
I know. But he and I were always sitting there before the chair.
Yeah. Eddie will come soon.
No, give him 10 minutes. So.
Yeah. It's a big trade today. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Are you even talking about your brother?
No, man. No. All right, very good. All right, Kuf Nun Aleph. This is mentioned to Ozzy today. Just one of those days in the Gemara where everything we thought we knew, we actually didn't, and some of the rules we thought that made it very simple. Turns out the Shchimera is not so simple, and therefore there's a reason why we came into it not clear is because we're come out of it not clear. But let's see what's going on. So 2 dots, Kuf Nun Aleph. Is yesterday's daf, Kuf Nun Beis is today's. We got up to the teku, so skip the parentheses, just a couple of mnemonics to remember the next couple of meisim, just
mnemonics.
MN, that's all I know. MN, right. So that is a silent P or something in front of it also, right? PMN, right? All right, so anyway, right. I know, I'm kidding. All right, fine. So Amen to Rav Zutra.
Maybe it was silent.
Call meisim. Rav Zutra, Bartuvia. Kasivna lenichsa Rav Zutra Bartuvia. So the mother of Rav Zutra Bartuvia, we just started Mamish Kuf Nun Aleph Amud Aleph at the end of the skinny lines. sort of like the middle of the page, right? So today, she was getting married. The mother of Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia, and we talked to him a mavreches the other day. A woman, let's say, was getting married a second time. She doesn't want her assets going into her second husband, so basically she gave it away. Right? So sort of like wink, wink. That if I do end up getting widowed or divorced, I want my stuff back. So Amy, the Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia, Kasvina, the next day, the Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia, she wrote to her son. The boy and Suves, she figured that would be pretty safe. You know, he'll give it back to me, right? The boy and Suves, the Rav Zvid, she was going to marry. She got a good shidduch with Rav Zvid. So she got married, and the Girsha and Sally, they got divorced. Couldn't work things out. So also the Kamei Rav Bibi, then she wanted her stuff back, and he said, "No, you gave it to me. It's a matana. Thank you. Adios. I'm not giving it to you, Map." So also the Kamei Rav Bibi, Varabaye, Amar Meshum and Suve, right? Funds Well, you said I'm going to give it to you because I'm getting married, and you got married. So like it's almost like a condition, like you were getting married, so you gave it to me. Done. That's it. So Amalei Rav Huna Brei of Yeshua Mishum Dasim Maloi right? Because we saw this a couple maybe a couple weeks ago. You know, because you come from Muloi, playing the words, right? So you're gonna say something that's like crooked, right? So Afilu Laman Diomar Mavrechas Honey, even according to the opinion that holds. Even according to the opinion that holds the Mavrechas is Kani, right? That's only, even if you want to say that it doesn't go back, it's only where the woman getting married did not reveal her intentions. But over here, over here, she was saying, right? She was basically saying, because I'm getting married, meaning I don't want to go to my second husband. But if I'm not married, I'm not married anymore. I don't want to go to him. Right?
She said that.
Right. And therefore she got, married and then divorced. So once she's not married again, she would want it back. Therefore, it's pashut she should be able to go ahead and get it back. Amy, next Maisa, Amy the Ram Rachama. So Be'orsa, Kasina the Nachsal the Ram Rachama. So the mother of Ram Rachama. So in the evening, she wrote over her nechasim to her favorite son Ram Rachama. However, B'tzafra in the morning, Kasvina le Rav Ukva Bar Chama. She said, "You know what? No, I don't like him as much. I'm going to give all my assets to Rav Ukva Bar Chama." So also Rav Chama, the Kamei Rav Sheshes, Rav Chama, the other son, right? Both of them were the son of Chama, right? So it came before Rav Sheshes. So Rav Chama came before Rav Sheshes, and Ukva B'diksei. So questions like this. When you go ahead and so we know a case like this. Let's just say Pashut, that a person gives away all their assets and they get better, right? The streamer gives away all their assets and it gives away everything and it gets better. So we said it goes back to the person in reverse. So you see, it's sort of reversible, right? So now the question is, so when she gave the Rachama, so normally if I give Eddie a gift, so if I give Eddie a gift, right? And then the next day I give the same item to Jack. I can't do that because I already gave it to Eddie, right? Eddie made a kinyan, and it already is. But over here, the question is, she gave it to Ram Rachama, right? So is she able to reverse it, right? We know that if the person survives, it's reversed. So is it able to be reversed and given to Rav Ukva or not?
Here it says he signed it on a word.
Kasvina, right? I wrote over.
It's a little different than just humans.
But there was no kinyan. There was no right.
That could make a difference.
So let's see. A lot of things can make a difference, and like I said, as I asked you before, Shir, there's a lot of things that sort of will throw us off, and therefore I quit the sugya after this. We finish today. So let's see. Yeah, you'll see. So Kinder Rav Sheshes, so Rav Sheshes says it goes to the first recipients, right? It was Ram Rachama. He was the one who basically approached Rav Sheshes. So also Rav Ukva Bar Chama. So Rav Ukva said, I'll find my own post. They come into Rav Nachman. He found the great Rav Nachman. And he says, it goes to the second person. She's allowed to go ahead and change her mind. Number two. So seems like the Paiskim are against each other. So also Rav Sheshes, the coming of Rav Nachman. Rav Sheshes came before Rav Nachman. So Amar Lei. So now the two Paiskim have contradictory piske, right? So Amar Lei, my time, Ukma Lamar Mar L'Ravuk. Why'd you give it to the second person? L'Ravuk Bar Chama. So Imishum the Hajra. If you're saying, let's say she should be chayzer shchiva, right? So if you say she be chayzer, she died in this case. So she died, so it should go to the first person. Samalei Hachi Amar Shmuel Kol Shilu Amar Chayzer Matanaso. Anything that theoretically, right, she gave it to the first person, right? If she would have gotten better, since she gave everything to the first person, she would have gotten better. It would have gone back to her. So too, she can give it to a person and be chayzer. She can be chayzer with her matana. She was a shchimira. She was shchimira. Right.
It's implied from
right. So Gemara says, okay, I understand one thing though, is she gave everything away without intention. She didn't think she was going to live. Okay, but for here, she thinks she was going to die, and she wants to give it to one, and now she wants to give it to two. So why? So there's this either one, it works. Now, next case. The mother of Rav Amram Chasida Maluga the Shtari had a pouch of Shtaris. When she was dying, she says, Lehavi Amram Beri, let it go to Amram, my son. Sasi Achva Lekame Rav Nachman. Right? So then the other siblings heard about it. They says, slow down, why didn't he get everything? So they came for Rav Nachman. I V'halo Mashach. Right? So they said she gave it to him. It's his. But they said he didn't do a kinyan. He never did Mashicha. So no, since the words of a shchimera was like it was written and handed over, and therefore it holds that strength. Achte der Rav Tuvi barav masna kasvina Rav Tuvi barav masna. So I guess there were a bunch of siblings, the children of Rav Masna, and the sister. I guess she was dying, and she gave over to her brother Rav Tuvi. Right in the morning, B'tzafra in the morning, and Lefania later on in the evening. Also Rav Achtuvoy barav Masna. So her other brother Rav Achtuvoy came to her, and he says, Bachale was crying to her. Everyone's going to see that you gave all of your possessions to our other brother, and they're going to say, "Oh, why? Because he's a Talmid Chacham and I'm not." So they're going to, they're going to make fun of me. So because she says, "You're right." Kasvina nilai. So she wrote to him, basically switching over. And she died. It's also coming to Rav Nachman. Amalei Hakem Shmuel Kol Shilu Amar Chayzer Matanaso. Anything that theoretically that if she would have gotten better, she would have got it all back. So too, she'd be chayzer in her matana. And Achte Rav Dimi Bar Yosef, and this is Rav Dimi Bar Yosef Havlei Psikas the Pardesa had a certain strip of Pardes of orchard. So Kol Amos Dahavi Chalsha. Whenever she was sick and she thought he was dying, she would basically go ahead and give it over to her brother, to Rav Dimi.
Did you say Western?
Yeah, having the whole time. It's called Amos the Havi Kolsha. Right? So whatever is right. And every time, he would have to go ahead and return it to her. She gave him all his assets and he had to give it all back. He should give it all his assets, he had to give it all back. So Zinachada one time, the next time Kolsha. She was getting sick, turn the page, and Shalchale, she sent him to Kani, come. Make a kinyan. Shalach loy be'ina. I do not want to. We've been to these games. Shalchalei. She said, "Ta, Kani, kohechel the boys." She said, "Okay, come and do whatever you want." So Azil he went, and so basically told her, "Do me a favor. Don't give me all your property. Give me 90% of your property. I'm going to get 90%." So Azil Sharia. So she left some out. She gave him 90%. The economy, no, and he made a kinyan from her. He made a kinyan on the other 90%. And Kikaima, once again, Baruch Hashem, she got better. Sahajaba, she says, okay, it goes back. And he says, no, I'm not giving you back. It's mine. I made a kinyan. You gave me 90%, which is what we saw in our Mishnah, right? If you leave some out, then it's good. So what happened? She came for Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman told Rav Dimi, right? Is that easy to get a story? Rav Dimi, he didn't come. Amar ma yisi, why should I come? Hashari, but come. Right? Economy, no. And she left some out. I made a kinyan. This is a regular matana. It should be. I'm saying. Shachle, Rav Nachman says, listen, if you're not, I'm going to hit you with something that doesn't create blood, i.e., I'm going to put you in chayrim. Right? That hits pretty good. So he said to the so Rav Nachman said to the I guess the witnesses who were around, Hey Maisa, what was the Maisa? So Amrle, Hachi, this is what she was saying. Woe is to this woman who is dying, talking about herself, and then I'm gonna give my 90% of my fields to my brother because I'm dying. So Amrle, Im Kain, Havi Mitzava Machmas Misa, Mitzava Machmas Misa, Chayz. So all of a sudden we just do a wrench into everything we've learned until now. All right, Ozzy, this is one of the things I was talking about. Once she disclosed that she was doing it because she thought she was dying, then if she gets better, even if there was a kinyan that was done, even if there was a amount that it wasn't all given, it doesn't. It goes back. It goes back. But if it was said, right? If it was said,
Afraid I'm going to die.
Right.
So if you're a street mirror and you give it all away except for a shear or whatever, so what's not. But if you said I'm doing it because of dying.
Because I think I'm dying. No. But listen, shchimera could be because you're dying. But then the special takana by shchimera, there's two things aspects to it. One is that you don't really need to do a kinyan, right? And the other is that if it was given that it could potentially go back. Normally, when I do a kinyan, when I give it my ton, it can't go back. But here's matana that theoretically could go back, but you need that aspect. See, mat neshchimera b'miktzas. So mat neshchimera, let's say, it was not the entire amount; it was only a partial. So Amir Rabbanan Kamei de Rava Mishmei de Marzucha Berei de Rav Nachman. So for Rachan, the Amir Mishmei de Rav Nachman stayed in the standard of Nachman. He's going to be credited with this. Harehi kamatan asbaria, harehi kamatan neshchimera. If something is a partial, right? You give 90% away. Then it has aspects of shchimera and aspects of matanas bari. How so? Harei matanas bari shim amad in a chayzer. It's like a matanas bari that if the person gets better, that cannot get back. Harei matanas shchimera delayed by kinyan does not require a kinyan. Some of the Rava. Salav amina l'chol tisla buki sariki karav nachman. Then I told you don't hang empty pictures on that which Rav Nachman said. He said, no, it's just like a matanas bari, and it requires a kinyan. In other words, you got to do a kinyan. It's not, you can't just say it, you got to do a kinyan. Right? So this is so for a shchimera for according to this, for a shchimera to say it, so therefore there has to be a kinyan that is done. Right?
All the cases of the mission.
Yes, we're about to ask from the Mishnah. We're about to ask now. So Rav Nachman. So we just said Rav Nachman says, yeah, very good. Alan, why don't you ask this? Yeah, they say Eisvei Rav Nachman. I understand. Yeah. So Shaya Karka Koshu Matanasa Kayamas. So our Mishnah says a person leaves a little behind, then so leaves a little behind. Then the matan is kayem, even if the person is chayzer, or even if the person gets better. So my lav like kanamine is now referring to where there's no kinyan done, and nevertheless the person acquires it. The rest is low. The kanamine, no, he made a kinyan. So ihachi, if that's the case, same as seifa. Let's take a look at the seifa. Lo shayir karka kol shuv. He doesn't leave anything. He gives 100%. Ein matanaso kayemas. The matana is not kayem. We kanamine amayin matanaso kayemas. If there was a kinyan, so why does it not go back? You made a kinyan. You gave it to the person. The person made a kinyan. Why does it not go back? An aleph on base. Even if you make a kinyan from it, Amad, he gets better. Chayzer, he gets better. Because it was done machmas misa. Right. So even though they made a kinyan, you have to make a kinyan. And even if you made a kinyan, but he gave it out away, then it goes back. So basically, we're losing the whole aspect of you don't need a kinyan. His devarav is ki'ilu kais kaisvin the masur. Ace ask you another question. Question number 2. She was saying, go ahead and give my fancy brooch to my daughter. And it's worth 12 mana. Umesa, and she died. The Kaimo Dvarel, And over there, right, they filled her. She just said it, and then Lamai said they gave the daughter the brooch. Then the sons didn't get it. So Hassam over there, misa. Over there, she was saying, "I am dying. I am dying," and therefore it goes to the daughter. So therefore, since she said that she's dying, therefore it's more right than just therefore in such a case, if you say I'm dying, so now there comes something else comes out, right? And not only we said earlier that if the person says I'm dying, that therefore if the person gets better it's chazer, but also if the person says basically I'm dying, then you do not need to go ahead and make a king.
I think like really bad people, they wrote them or something, and that's why.
I don't know. Could be.
There's a mission somewhere to come. Randy May.
You have to look at the Tzvi Zimmerman has a sefer, and he put out a sefer like about all like this Tanai Marai, Tanakh.
Yeah.
So you look at maybe Bnei Ruchel, maybe there was something on that also. Yeah, could be. All right, you got to look in there. Say another kasha. Person says, give this get to my wife, or the shtar shikha to my evet umeis, and the guy dies before they had an opportunity to do it. So because they didn't do it yet, and therefore if they go ahead and deliver it, it'll be given an achamisa and get leachamisa. One of the rules by Git is and get leachamisa. But if it's tenu mana leploni, the person says give $100 to ploni umeis and he dies, you can go ahead and give it leachamisa. So over there, why do you give it? There was no kinyan done, and why do you say that? How do you know there was no kinyan done? So do me the get. It has to be similar to the first case. Ma get lav bar kinyan, just like over there in the case of the get, there was no kinyan, and therefore ain't get leachamisa. So afai nami like kanamine. So to over here, there was no kinyan. So the Gemara says hasam nami b'mitzvah machmas misa. Over there, since he was saying it was machmas misa because he's dying, right? So therefore, once you say he's doing it because he's dying, therefore that removes the requirement of making a kinyan.
Okay.
And Rav Huna ben Yeshua Amar,
So the kinyan is meaningless.
it is
Even if
unnecessary.
kinyan does take place with a shchimera.
Right. If it's everything, then it goes back. But if it's only partial, and he says because I'm dying, then it wouldn't go back. With the kinyan. That was Rav Nachman. That was what they asked. Argue with Rav Nachman.
Right.
That's what they asked. So Rav Nachman ruled.
He said doesn't make a difference.
So we're still going to say
Kinyan or no kinyan.
they're going to bring it together right now. And Rav Huna break the Yeshua Amar. So mitzvah machmas misa bi'alma by kinyan. Normally, with persons mitzvah machmas misa normally in a kinyan. So v'chitei mahani masni says in these cases where he says mitzvah machmas misa there was no kinyan required because he said it. So machalik kol nechasav over there we're talking about that he gave away everything, right? So he gave away everything, and therefore when he gave away everything, right? So then you do need a kinyan because that's considered to be a matna shchim. The hilchasa, we're at the bottom of Kuf Nun Aleph of Beis. The hilchasa, and the halach is matna shchimira b'miktzas by kinyan, right? That the halach is that a matna shchimira require the miktzas partial by kinyan requires a kinyan. Right, the afagav demes, right? So matash chimra, the partial it requires again. The afagav demes, and even if he dies, right? It's only if in other words, only if he says that he's doing because he's dying.
Well, the whole point of the you don't have time to do it, kinyan. It's like you're on your deathbed, you're about to die. You can't start reading in the 8 a.m. You can't start doing a sleep in. You guys not even they might not even be there. Person you're giving it to.
Correct. We said that, and which is why I gave it in the introduction to today. I said right. In other words,
is this the conclusion of it?
No. It keeps going on. It keeps getting worse. Right. So it gets more confusing. In other words, I had clarity before I started preparing yesterday's daf, and all of a sudden it's like cloudier and cloudier. But I always say because it comes out, Alan. It comes out that. In other cases, also confusing how it works because there's never a clear conclusion how it works. So, like, it's all circular. It's not, when I get to the sugya, it clarified. No, it's like, So he say over here. So he say Hilchos Machas Shchimura B'Misas by Kinyan V'Afagav the Mace and Mitzav Machas Misa Loy by Kinyan V'U the Mace. And on the case where a person goes, let's say he does not need to do, is when he it's only when he what's that? The Avogad the Mace Mitzvah Machas Misa Loy by Kinyan V'U the Mace. And that's only, it doesn't require if he dies. However, Ahmad, but if he gets better, even if they made a kinyan, all right, but he got better, then it all, if it's everything, then it goes back. So we said earlier, Matna Shkimira Shekasaba kinyan. So Matna Shkimira, that he writes in it to make a kinyan. Now, normally, right, we stated, right, that if it was being done and the person was dying because he was dying, now as he says he's doing because he's dying, so a kinyan is not required. There's two aspects, right? There's the aspect of it being effective, and there's the aspect of if the person gets better, right? Was it effective or not? So now, if the person is stating that he's he's dying, right? So then he doesn't need to go ahead and make a kinyan. So but he wrote in there to make a kinyan. Go ahead and make a kinyan and acquire it. So it's like you're going in two different lanes, right? It's two different things. That means I don't know. What to say in such a case. What do you mean? So Bei Rav Mishmei the Rav Amri. So the Yeshiva of Rav said the name of Rav who says it's like two different things. So he says Akvei Hashtei Richshei. What do you mean? Harehi Kamatas Bari, Harehi Kamatas Shchimera. It actually has two aspects. He's saying he should acquire it with a kinyan. So Harehi Kamatas Bari. It's like a regular gift of Bari. In other words, 1, 2, 3, no trade backs. That if he gets better, now it's because he told him to make a kinyan. That means if he gets better, ain't a chayzer, that it doesn't go back. And harehi kamata shchim rashtim amar havas leplani. All right, he says that this hava from so and so goes to somebody else. Havas leplani. That indeed it does work. In other words, we sort of like a case of ma'amet shloshtan. Right, somebody else has my money, and I say, hey, instead of paying me back, pay back the third person. The other person can go ahead and collect from him. So over here, the guy that was dying, he has money owed to him, a milva al peh, a non-documented loan, and he says, okay, this guy owes me $1,000. You can go ahead and collect it, becomes yours. That would work. So that's how it's like if he says to make a kinyan, then it works in that effect. Ushmul Omar lo yadinan my adon ba. He says, I don't know what this person wanted. Maybe he was saying that you should acquire it with the star. In other words, take the star, write it down, and acquire with the star, and only do it after his death. And therefore none of it would work. So maybe by doing the extra really messes up the whole thing, right? So maybe that's why he did it. So we don't know if the guy's intentions were make a kinyan, acquire through a star, and ain't star lachamisa, therefore you get nothing. Or if it's like Rav, that was Shmuel, or if it's like Rav that says no, it was like strengthening, right? Strengthening his position that he can even go ahead and collect a milva alpeh. Fine. So Virami de Rav ad Rav. We actually have a steer in Rav, and also Shmuel, and also a contradiction Shmuel. The Shalach Rav Mishmei de Rav de Rabbi Avo. So Havia the Shalach Rabbi Elazar legoel Mishum Rabbeinu. So it was known that they sent Rabbi Elazar said to Gola. And goes in the name of Rav. So it says Shchimera Shamar Kisvu Utnu Manalaploni. Write down in a star and give Manalaploni. Umes, and the guy dies. Ein kaisvin v'naisnin shemlei gamak nasal v'shtar. So according to Rav, and this is right, Rav said, excuse me, all right, go ahead and write it and give it to him in a shtar. The guy died, so ein shtar lachamisa. So according to Rav, remember that was just Shmuel who said that. According to Rav, you can't go ahead and give it ein shtar lachamisa. The other Rav Yomer Shmuel. You can go ahead and write it and give it to the person, right? That he's owed $100. So Kashi the Rav ad Rav and Kashi the Shmuel. It's a contradiction in both. So first of all, the Rav ad Rav loy Kasha. So how to economy nay. So in the first case, remember the first case when he's on the top of the page when he says Madash Kinyan, the guy actually made a kinyan. So since he actually made a kinyan, there's no ein shtar la'achar misa. He made the kinyan, right? So in that case, that was the reason why Rav says it works, right? It works over there. And it's a strength, right? But this case over there, he never made a kinyan, and therefore ein shtar la'achar misa. And the Shmuel like kasha. So because over here, it's talking about the second case, he was only doing it. He really wanted the person to acquire it just with his dibur. So why did he say right shtar? He wanted to strengthen to give the guy proof that he had it. And we'll soon see when the lashon is to just strengthen what he said, i.e., bring proof, so no one will challenge you. Says, "Oh, who said he said to give you $100?" Well, it was written on the star. He said to write on the star, right? So it was proof. Versus write it on the star because that's how I want you to acquire it. So Yosef Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. So Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, he was sitting behind Rav. Yosef Rav came to Rav Nachman. So I guess Rav Nachman was like in the front. Rav was sitting in front of him. All right, he was in the front, and Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak was sitting behind Rav. Couldn't really see what was going on. So indeed, Shmuel says we saw earlier that maybe that he only wants to go ahead and acquire it. If the Shechimera uses says right in a star that he wanted to only acquire it through a star, and ain't star lachamisa wouldn't work. That Shechimera who write all his nechas leacherim, even the nega kinyan, if he gets better, it goes better. Biadua shoya kinyan ela machmas hamisa, because and that was that he was only doing the kinyan. Turn the page, right? Because that he was going to die, so they did the kinyan. But it was all based upon the fact that the guy thought he was dying. But if he wasn't going to die, then he wasn't going to go ahead and do it. So he says, so in this case, what do you see over here? That the kinyan, right, was only done machmas hamisa, right? So what happens? So Rav Nachman went ahead. Right. So he be chayzer in that case because it was only done machmas hamisa. So who was the Rebbe? Rav Nachman? Coming Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman sort of like pushed off his head. It was quiet. So he come. So when they got up, Charusa was over. So Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Rava. So Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, who was sitting behind Rava, really didn't see the conversation between Rav and Rav Nachman. So he says, I said, what was he doing with his hand? What did he tell you? I didn't hear what he said. So the only reason over there was to go ahead and write in a star to make a kinyan was just to bring proof later on to strengthen his right to that money, but it wasn't to make the kinyan. In other words, the kinyan there wasn't a kinyan to acquire it. It was just a kinyan, a star to show that it was due to the person. So what's such a case? Whereas miyafes kaicho, some Rav Chisda. So Rav Chisda says, so he says, he says, acquire this in addition to that which on this gift already. So in other words, since he says al matanasa on this gift, it was already a matanas shchimara. It works. That's sufficient. But just write it anyway, so that's like in addition, right? Maisif, right? So he says Maisif al naso. So that's specifically a case of miyafes kachot. So now
there's a record of it.
No, so where he says go ahead and write it down in addition to acquiring the gift, right? So now we
already took effect.
Right. So there's a new aspect. So now there's a thing like this. Let's say when the Shechimera is dying, he says, "I'm giving you $1,000, and write in a star that I owe you. That you get $1,000." So slow down there. So what did he mean by writing it? Does he specifically want to write it and only make a kinyan, as we've been talking before, make a kinyan? But now you can't make a kinyan achar misa, or does he really mean acquire it as a gift? Why are you writing it down? Just for proof later on. Nothing to do with a transaction. Just to have a record, proof to strengthen that. So that's the whole question. So it says, if it's miyafes kocho, and what's the equation for miyafes kocho? So that's what the Gemara is saying over here, where he says, the kinyana mine, acquire it, maisif, in addition, al matanasa. Right? In addition to this already received gift. Fine. So pshita kasav lezeh v'kasav lezeh. So it's obvious if he writes it to one person, right? All of his his estate, and then he writes it to somebody else, right? So Hainu the Chiyasa Rav Dimi Omar. That's what Rav Dimi says. Daitiki Mavatel is Daitiki, right? That one one daitiki, one will can go ahead. The latest will can go ahead and override the previous will, right? The wills can be changed, right? Kasav, but what's what he says? The zicha lezeh, right? The kasav zicha lezeh. So let's say, so he says, go ahead and go ahead and acquire it, right? With this, and then he gave the kasav zicha lezeh, and then he gives the other person. In other words, in such a case, right? Do we say who gets the property?
What happened?
So he wrote the what's it called? He wrote his will. Right?
The beginning portion.
Which one? The second case?
No, this.
No. He wrote. He caused of a zikha lezeh, but over here, he didn't just write a will to one person, will to the other person. He wrote a will and it says acquire it. Then he wrote to somebody else, wrote a will and acquire it. So now we're throwing in that second case. So, until now, we're talking about one individual make a kinyan. So does the one person make a kinyan and kinyan achamisa or not? Over here, we're talking about. Now, what's the halacha when it comes to when you say acquire it, but from switching from A to B? Can you switch from A to B? Normally, you could switch from A to B, but what happens when he says acquire it? Maybe the first person, because it goes to B if you don't use the word acquire it, right? You get it. It goes to the second person. He can change his mind. But once I say you get it and you acquire it, and then I change my mind the next day and says you get it, you acquire it. Maybe that's something else.
It's not Kona.
It's zicha.
Is he telling him to be Kona, or is he saying I'm
confirming
it? I'm confirming.
I think it's zicha through star, right? Like to make it like a kinyan, right? So Rav Omar. So no, that's the difference. So Rav Omar Rishon Kana, the first person acquires it. Ushmul Omar Sheni Kana, the second person acquires it. We'll explain. Rav Omar Rishon Kana Harei Kamatnas Bari is like a Matnas Bari, and therefore, since over here he wrote it because he made a kinyan in it, so therefore you can't go ahead and switch it over. Ushmul Omar Sheni Kana Harei Kamatnas Primra. It's like a Matnas Primra, and therefore, since it in theory, if the person got better, it would be chayzer. So to over here, it can be chayzer from person A to person B. So Gemara says, but then we already have this discussion. Right? Whether he had it, they write a kinyan, right? Is that the same case? Is that the same achlaikas? So there was the difference between zicha and then kinyan. So tzricha, if it was over there in the first case, when he writes to make a kinyan, so ba'al kamara, over there in that case, in other words, it goes to the rishon, mishum dekonomy ne, v'abaha dekonomy ne, but over here in this case, where it was not the kinyan was not performed yet, so maybe he would say that just zicha, right, is good enough, right? Or excuse me, maybe he would say that zicha is not good enough, and it would be like Shmuel, be like Shmuel, that there was no kinyan done yet. He wrote zicha, right? So therefore, maybe the zicha changes. Maybe it was not the same. So kamash like that, vitar baha. And if we just had in the second case where he said zicha, but he didn't make actual kinyan, baha kamar Shmuel. In that case, Shmuel says, okay, you can go to the second person because he didn't make a kinyan of baha, but we actually made a kinyan. Maybe we read Rav. So kamash. So therefore, it's tricky in both cases to say that both cases Rav says whether he made a kinyan or zicha, it goes to the rishon, and going to Shmuel that even if you made a kinyan or you wrote zicha, it still goes to the second person because he is able to go ahead and change your mind. And Basuri Masni Hachi in Surah they taught the version we just had. However, in Pabudisa Masni Hachi slightly different version. Rav Yirmi bar Abba Shochalei mi bei Rav l'Shmuel. They sent from the yeshiva of Rav to Shmuel. Yabadenu Rabbeinu Shchimrash Nechasam Kol Nechasam Le'Acher. He wrote all of his Nechasim to others, to other people. Yeah, right. But he gave it all away, right? And then, he what happened? V'konomi Yado, right? And then over there they made a kinyan with it. So Mahu, in other words, he went to. So then he made a kinyan. So in that case, in other words, then he gave it to others, right?
Sorry again, he gave it away.
He gave
and then on his deathbed he did it again.
So right. So right, and then and then he acquired it from him, and now it basically wants to go to somebody else. Mahu, right? Can it go to somebody else? Now, once you make a kinyan, right? Then it's done. Then shchimra is done. Or do we say that he can still be chayzer and switch it around? So shalchay ein acher kinyan klum. Nothing can come after the kinyan, and therefore it will not go to the second people. So savri minei hani milig le'acher. Maybe he thought this is only to somebody else about the atzma low, but maybe he knows it can't switch it from A to B. But it could switch from A to himself, i.e., if the individual gets better. So Rav Huna mi Gupari. So Rav Huna said Gupari. So Perisha ben liatzma ben lecherem. No, you can't change it whether it's liatzma or lecherem. In other words, that once the kinyan is done, that he can't even go ahead and take a batch. And Ahu to call me name. So it's a person who went ahead and made a kinyan, and then and he wanted to get it back. Also, come to Rav Huna Amar Mai Velecha. The Laachnis b'Demakano Inshi. Right, in other words, you did not go ahead and give it the matan shchimra. Matan shchimra was without a kinyan. You gave it with a kinyan, therefore you're not able to go ahead and be chayzer. And I guess we'll stop here. And tomorrow, B'ezras Hashem, we will continue from here. Everyone have a wonderful day.
It goes back to the original.
In that case, it does. Yeah.
Because
Sassy, now you know where I'm coming from.
he thought it was